Употребата на страдателен залог в английски е много по-честа, отколкото в българския. Причината за това вероятно е, че в българския съгласуваме глаголите си. Имаме така наречените безподложни изречения. Продават хляб на ъгъла, ще ни увеличат заплатите, където, както в страдателен залог и тук, извършителя на действието не е важен, но по същество с идеятелен залог. В английския на практика всеки преходен глагол, който взема допълнение, се използва в пасив. Нещо повече, много глаголи не можем да преведем на български в страдателен залог, тъй като те не се използват така в нашия език. Например, I am told превеждаме като казаха ми. Here we can see all of the common uses of the passive voice. In the passive, the grammatical tense depends on the same criteria as in the active. You can pause the video here and revise the structures. There are few tenses where the use of passive is less common, such as future continuous. Tomorrow by 10 o'clock I will be being interviewed. Future perfect. When we do the test the next week, the passive will have been studied. Present and past perfect continuous. Recently the work has been being done by George. A flying object had been being observed for 2 hours before a picture of it was taken. As you can see, these are rather sophisticated structures. Maybe that's why they are avoided in speech. Let's get back to the common use with something called advanced passive structures. They concern modals, transitive verbs with two objects, and passive infinitives and passive gerunds. The first structure, passive forms with modal verbs. It's easy. We only have present and past tense. In present, the project should be completed. Here we have modal verb plus be plus past participle. Be plus past participle form the passive infinitive. In past tense, the classes must have been cancelled due to the quarantine. We have modal plus have been plus past participle. Have been plus past participle form perfect passive infinitive. So, let's see the examples. Present. Mobile phones may not be used during the exam. Strange noises could be heard during the night. The volume of the video could be controlled. Past. The server couldn't have been repaired properly yesterday. Her Facebook profile must have been removed. Einstein should have been given a Nobel Prize. Obviously, he hasn't been given. Anyway, it looks simple, right? I want to show you how similar are the modal structures in active and in passive voice. What we have more in passive voice is the form of the verb to be. I marked them in red just to catch your eye. The second structure, passive forms with verbs that take two objects. You know that there are verbs that take two objects, indirect and direct. Such verbs are ask, bring, buy, give, hand, offer, pay, promise, sell, send, show, teach, tell, etc. So in the sentence, the teacher might give me a poor mark, which is in active voice, we have two objects. Me is the indirect object and a poor mark is a direct object. Look at the other sentence. The general manager promised John a pay rise. Depending on what we want to emphasize, we can begin with either the direct or the indirect object. A pay rise was promised to John by the general manager. John was promised a pay rise by the general manager. So once again, in active we have a sentence with two objects. And we could choose one of them to make it a subject in the passive. Which one we will choose depends on what we want to say. It's up to us. So the sentence the students gave the teacher a bunch of flowers could sound in passive. A bunch of flowers was given to the teacher, or the teacher was given a bunch of flowers. The third advanced structure, passive infinitive and ing forms. Let's see the two sentences. Teenagers don't want to be told what to do. Teenagers don't like being told what to do. You know that there are verbs that take the infinitive of the other verbs and another ones that take the ing form of the other verbs. To be told is passive infinitive and being told is passive gerund. So want is a verb that takes the infinitive after itself. I want to tell you is a sentence in active voice. And the verb like is the one that takes ing form after itself. I don't like telling jokes. And these verbs act in the same way in passive voice. After verbs and phrases followed by an ing form, we form the passive ing with being plus past participle. It's called passive gerund. My teacher doesn't mind being asked millions of questions. I got tired of being criticized for my ideas. I like being flattered. Who doesn't? These verbs and phrases be interested in, can't stand, don't mind, enjoy, get tired of, hate, like, dislike, love, miss. They all take ing forms in active, but this form is simple, doing, making, reading. But in passive, the ing form is complex. It consists of being plus past participle, being done, being made, being read. Verbs and phrases such as can't afford, choose, decide, hope, need, prefer, pretend, refuse, want, would like take two infinitive after themselves. So in active, they take the simple infinitive, to do. In passive, they take a complex one, the passive infinitive, to be plus past participle, to be done. Thousands of people hope to be cured of the disease. At some point, we will need to be told the truth. I would prefer not to be criticized. Just one more advanced passive structure. The passive of make somebody do something. In active, we use bare infinitive without to after make. My mum made me clean the room, not my mum made me to clean my room. In passive, we use to infinitive after make, so to appears after make. I was made to clean my room by my mum. We've just finished with the advanced passive forms, and we're going to continue with reporting with passive. With the passive reporting structures, the speaker tends to make distance between themselves and the source of information. That's why these structures are very common in the media. There are two types, impersonal and personal structures. Sentences with impersonal structure start with it, then we have a passive verb, then we have that, and then we have a clause. It is said that the quarantine would last 2 more weeks. In sentences with personal structure, we start with the subject, then we have a passive verb, then we have to infinitive. The teacher is said to be assigning us lots of tests. The teacher is known to be very strict. The students are supposed to have submitted their works on time. As you can see, the passive verb could appear in any tense, and the infinitive could be any infinitive, simple or complex. Common reporting verbs are agree, believe, claim, consider, expect, feel, hope, know, report, say, think, understand, and so on. Let's see how the two structures work. We have an active sentence. People generally claim that optimists live longer. We could convert this sentence into both structures, impersonal and personal. It is generally claimed that optimists live longer. The optimists are generally claimed to live longer. Here we have more examples, and let's see what happens with the tenses. It was believed that sunburns are harmless. Here we have a passive verb in past simple, was believed, because we are talking about something that was usual in the past. And we have present simple in the clause. Sunburns are harmless, because we are talking in general. If we convert this sentence into personal structure, it will sound: sunburns were believed to be harmless. And we have again the reporting verb in past simple, and we have the simple infinitive to be, because we are talking in general. When we talk about the present, we use the same simple infinitive or the continuous infinitive, to be doing. The next example. It is known that the Vikings reached the Americas centuries before Columbus. Here we have a reporting verb in present simple, is known, and past simple in the clause. Vikings reached the Americas. If we convert it into personal structure, it will sound: the Vikings are known to have reached the Americas centuries before Columbus. So again, we keep the tense in the reporting verb. But look what infinitive we used. We used the perfect infinitive, to have reached, because we are talking about the past. So after a reporting verb, we use simple infinitive to talk about present and perfect infinitive to talk about the past. And one more thing, existential there. We could use passive reporting structures with there. Let's see the active sentence: there is a house in New Orleans. The reporting verb could be whichever you like, it's not important here. I've chosen expect and say. So the sentence will sound: there is expected to be a house in New Orleans. The active sentence that we are converting now is in present simple. So to talk about present after a reporting verb, we use simple infinitive, to be. There is expected to be a house in New Orleans. The other example, they say there were a lot of things in the fridge. There are said to have been a lot of things in the fridge. Because we are talking about the past, there were a lot of things in the fridge. So when we report it, we have to use the perfect infinitive, to have been. There are said to have been a lot of things in the fridge. It was a long, but I hope an useful revision of the passive. Here, on the last slide, you could see all the infinitives and ing forms in English. Most of them we have just used.